What's up, tribe? How you guys doing? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I hope you like this video. This is going to be your review for Reasonable Doubt Season 3, Episode 4. So we pick up this episode. We have Jax and her PI rolling up on Ozzy's house, and they don't want to talk to Ozzy. They actually want to talk to Ozzy's sister, right? And Jax is saying, listen, first of all, how did Ozzy used to get his, illegal substances, prior to him getting sober? And his sister was like, well, what Ozzy wants, Ozzy gets, and he had been clean for a long time until that night. And she was like, yeah, so who was his person? And so the sister was like, well, I'm not really sure, but there was this guy, I believe his name was Brandon. I think that's his name. But he hasn't really been around in a while because, of course, Jax's philosophy, or her theory, I should say, is that Ozzy was with somebody the night that Wendy came up missing, right? Well, we know unalived. She believes that Ozzy wasn't the one that did it, but she also believes that Ozzy has a alibi, but is not using the alibi because maybe the person is choosing to not come forward. And so, and so the sister said, well, listen, I might have a number. I'll give you the number that I have, but I'm just not sure. Right. So then she also confesses to Jax that she was the one that gave Ozzy the narcotics the night that he had the overdose. She said, listen, he was so stressed out about everything that was going on, woo. So then we roll up on Bill. Bill is in front of his wife's house again. And we get a little bit more information. Come to find out that they are separated. She's also an attorney. They have 3 kids. And it sounds like she was saying, listen, you were putting your career above me and the family. And he was, he showed up with these flowers talking about some, oh, look, petunias, these are your favorites. She was like, no, peonies are my favorites. And he was like, well, happy anniversary. She was like, our anniversary was yesterday. So I was like, Bill, sir, if you thought rolling up on your wife was going to give you some kudos, some brownie points, you are failing miserably because everything you're doing is just wrong. So then he's telling her, look, I'm at least trying. And she was like, yeah, no, you're not. You're really not trying that. And if you're trying, it's not working. So then he says, well, I'm working, have you heard about the Ozzy case? And she was like, yeah, everybody has. And he was like, well, I'm on the case, second chair. This could be my rocket to partnership. And she was like, I'm glad to hear that you're still putting your career ahead of me and the family. And I was like, so Bill, it sounds to me like you still don't get it. Like you still ain't figured out why you are in the doghouse, or why you are stalking your wife from across the street in your car. It sounds like you're still not getting it. Because then he had the nerve to ask her after all of that, well, listen, jury selection starts on Monday. So you think I can drop the kids off early? And she was like, see, that's the problem. You still feel like your time and what you have to do is more important than me and what I have to do. She was like, absolutely not. You're going to bring them kids back when it's time for you to bring them back. And no, figure it out. The same way I have to figure it out every other day when I have something else to do. And I know I can't rely on you. I said, Bill, this is not working out well. Okay. So then we go down to the office and Jax, Bill, and Crystal and the PI are all working out the strategy. And basically they're going to use the fact that Ozzy was a victim of SA as part of his defense to try to sway the jury and get the jury to be more sympathetic. And so Jax actually goes and gets this elderly lady walking on the cane from accounting to come and basically lay out their case. And in the beginning, the lady was like, oh, Ozzy, I used to like his show, but, after seeing that video of him, I don't know I'm not sure how I feel about it. And Jax was like, well, that's understandable. She said, well, what if I told you that, he was an addict? And the lady was like, I wouldn't be surprised. And she said, well, what if I told you that, what if I let you know that he was assaulted as a child? And then, so by the time they got done, the lady was like, wow, like now I feel bad. I didn't know. Now I have some sympathy for him, which of course is exactly what Jax wants. So they were like, oh, so we need elderly white women on the jury. And she was like, people that are sympathetic to that. So Now they know what they're looking for in the jury, and Jax makes a booty call date with her husband. So he shows up, she's in lingerie, they getting it in, and then when they getting ready to go for round 2, all of a sudden they hear the kids are coming home and the door slamming. Now their son is home for fall break, or what have you, and they had decided they were going to tell the kids about the baby when he came home. Well, unfortunately, Spencer rolled home and they ain't tell him yet, and their daughter found out. So when they hear the door slamming, it's the kids found out on the streets about the baby. So of course now Jax and her husband now have to deal with what they've been trying to avoid. So of course dinner is awkward, but they were like, "Look, we were going to tell you guys. Well, one, we didn't know. One, we wanted to tell y'all together. Two, we didn't really know how to tell y'all because it's such a big thing. And then once the baby didn't make it, that added a whole nother layer of drama and trauma to the situation. And so the daughter was like, yeah, but I gave dad an opportunity to tell me, and he lied. He looked me dead in my face and lied, which I could definitely understand her feeling some kind of way about. Like, I gave him a chance to tell me, he lied. Then and of course Spencer was like, yeah, this is the best, break ever. So the kids are pissed off, and Jax and her husband are really sitting there like, damn, you know what I mean? So then the husband is having some issues down on his job because the guy that he hired at the end of last season, the other black programmer, well, come to find out he lied on his resume, and he really doesn't know how to do all of the programming that he claimed he could do. He said he could do C++ and C# and all these other ones, and he's screwing up clients because he's messing up their programming for their games. And so he pulls him into the office and he's like, listen, bruh, what's going on? And he was like, I apologize. I thought I had a handle on C++. I kind of exaggerated how well I knew it because I thought it wouldn't be hard. I thought it wouldn't be hard to sort of figure out. I thought it wouldn't be hard to figure out, but I'm really, struggling, but I got some friends helping me out. And so he tells him, he was like, listen, okay, look, because of course he was like, a black man don't get, he played the race card with him, a black man don't get too many opportunities like this. So I'm really not trying to screw it up. So of course he was like, all right, look, I'll give you some information. I mean, I'll train you, but you got to come in on weekends and stay late, and it's gonna be on your dime. Like, I'm not giving you no extra. You know what I mean? Like, you got to get us together, or I'm gonna have to fire you. Like, he was like, oh, thank you so much, thank you so much. Now, I'm gonna go on and knock this on out the way. That comes back to bite him in the ass later on, because basically later on, they catch up and realize, his boss's boss realizes, hey, oh boy is screwing up the accounts. What's going on? Like, you need to be handling this. And they end up having to fire him. And also he had a non-compete clause that he didn't tell them about. And he was like, oh, I thought the non-compete clause was over already. Well, when they get ready to fire him, why he gonna throw old boy under the bus talking about some, Lewis under the bus talking about some, so I guess I don't have to do the training anymore. So why he gonna dry snitch on Lewis? Now Lewis tried to look out for you. Lewis tried to have your back, and you gonna dry snitch on Lewis and make it seem like, like he was doing you dirty, right? But that was your way of letting the boss know that Lewis knew that you were struggling, and instead of, anyway, he screwed him. So the boss gonna tell Lewis, look, you are a great employee, but management requires a different skill set. And if you don't have it, you might be at HR your damn self. So, baby, why Lewis done told, oh boy, you better get your shit together or I'm gonna have to write you up. And he gonna say, oh, it's like that. Lewis was like, I don't know what you thought it was gonna be. Like, you literally threw me under the bus and damn near got me fired, bro. What? And you managed to hold on to your job, but please understand, I will never allow you to put me in a trick bag again. So now Jax and Bill have to convince Ozzy to let them use his essay, his sexual assault, as part of his defense. And of course, obviously, he does not want to do that. You know, he doesn't want to talk about it. He doesn't want people to know that about him. And she said, listen, this is our best shot. And he was like, well, she said, well, who is it? He was like, I don't, I'm really not ready to comfortable. She said, that's fine. You don't have to tell us who it is, but we do need to use it. And she said, and you really need to let your parents know, because I don't think the first time they hear about it should be during your trial. So, he agrees to it. He understands that's what they need to do. So then we see them doing jury selection. They're going through the whole ins and outs of the jury selection. The DA is trying to eliminate all the black people because, of course, why would you keep the black people? And then, of course, Jax is trying to find people that are going to be sympathetic to victims of sexual assault and stuff. So we see them going through the rigmarole of that. So then we see Jax finally linking up with her homegirls. They're finally at dinner. And what we find out is the doctor, the psychiatrist, she's pregnant. We saw last season that she had a very devastating miscarriage, but she's pregnant again. And so, of course, everybody is happy for her. And then, girl that put her house up for bond, whose husband is divorcing her, come to find out she's sleeping with her husband again. And she tells Jax, one-on-one, and Jax was like, girl, do you, like, what good can come out of that? Like, he wants to divorce you. He was very clear about that. And she was like, see, look at you. You just can't be happy for me. You're just jealous like you always been. And the two of them get to arguing. But when the other ladies come back from the bathroom, they basically are like, oh, no, we good. So I don't know what that's about. I mean, she didn't call Jax a hoe. Jackson called her a liar. Like, it was nasty. And I was like, I never seen them really talk to each other like that. So I don't know if that's like, sometimes them arguments, people's real feelings come out. So I don't know if that's how you really feel, or if you were just in your feelings because Jax didn't give you the response that you thought you were going to get. And then once you threw it at Jax, baby, Jax just threw it back. But it got nasty. So then we see Ozzy having the conversation with his parents, telling his parents that he had been violated as a kid. And of course they wanted to know who, and they started guessing all the different people. And he was like, look, and Jax was like, listen, I think the fact that he's opening up to you guys and telling you what happened to him, I think that's enough for right now. I don't think we should pressure him into talking about who it is. Just understand that this happened and it's going to come up in trial because we're going to use it as part of our defense. And we just felt like you guys needed to know. And I can understand as parents, their reaction, like, oh my gosh, who did it? What we need to do about it, kind of thing. I think the father was more concerned about whether it was a man or a woman, but whatever. So then we see Jax and Lewis talking about her dad, and they agree that Jax is going to deal with her relationship with her father. And if she feels like he is truly clean and truly reliable and truly, going to be back in her life on a real basis, then they will they'll tell the kids about him, because the kids don't know anything about him because he's never been a part of their lives. But of course, the next day, Mama is babysitting for Jax. Well, I shouldn't say babysitting because them kids ain't babies, but you know what I'm saying. Watching the kids for Jax, and who come knocking at the door is the daddy. So daddy comes in, he does TikTok videos with them, and he's talking to them, and then they basically let them know how pissed off they are at their parents. And they tell the daddy, the grandfather they ain't never met, they tell him their whole story about how the daddy got the best friend's mama pregnant, how the baby died, and how the parents lied to them about it. I mean, broke the whole thing down to the point where, to be fair, the father actually, or granddaddy to them, actually was able to really say, listen, look, people make mistakes. I'm sure that, was never the intention to, have you guys become collateral damage. But at the end of the day, you know, this is how it was handled. They love you, yada, yada, yada. And actually talking to him made them feel a lot better about the situation. And they actually were ready to sort of like forgive, I guess, for lack of a better word, you know, forgive Jax or whatever about it. And when they told Jax why, they were like, oh, we talked to granddad. You never told us how cool he was. And, you know, he helped us understand y'all's point of view of it. So, you know, we cool. So, of course, Lewis is pissed off because Lewis was like, see, this is what I'm talking about. You know, the lack of boundaries. Like, ain't nobody tell him he could meet our kids. And Jax was like, well, to be fair, true, we didn't want him meeting the kids. But at the same time, if it's going to help them get past being upset with us, it's worth it, you know. And Lewis doesn't agree. Lewis is like, so you mean to tell me you're willing to trust the father that has always let you down with our kids so he can let them down too? And Jax was like, listen, all I'm saying is the kids ain't mad at us no more. So it can't be all bad. Lewis ain't feeling it, baby. Lewis done rolled up on the granddaddy and told him, you know, basically told him he wasn't shit. And don't, you know, how dare he roll up on, you know, push his way into their lives. And baby, when I tell you that granddaddy laid Lewis out and read him for the facts of his life, okay? When I tell y'all that Lewis let it be known, I mean, that the granddaddy let it be known that he had Lewis' number. He said, first of all, he said, at least I did my dirt on the road. You did your dirt right there in my daughter's house, the house that she pays the mortgage on. Because at the end of the day, you can't even claim head of household on your taxes. So don't be rolling up on me trying to call yourself getting me together. He was like, man, if you wasn't my wife's father, I would knock your ass out. He was like, but I am. So we both know you ain't gonna do shit. Baby, I said, Lewis, you got punked. Now, I don't think that he was in a position to say nothing because, sir, you was a whole drug addict that ran out on your family, it sounds like, for a long, long, long time. So you are definitely not in a position to be judging anybody or comparing blues. You know what I'm saying? When I say blues, I mean your blues ain't like mine kind of thing. You're not in no position to be saying, oh, well, at least I didn't do this to my family, because both things you did were devastating to your family, okay? Lewis, what you did was devastating, and sir, what you did was devastating. You don't get to decide which one was better or worse, okay? Let's be clear. So then Lewis had to tuck his tail between his legs and ride off into the sunset, child. So anyway, the trial is getting ready to start. Oh, no. Rewind. So Ozzy's sister and the private investigator are getting closer, right? They boot up on the couch and she's sharing with him, you know, Ozzy hasn't always been like this. You know, as a kid, you know, the character he played on TV was like this, you know, kid with a big personality, but in real life, he was really just a shy kid. You know, he used to keep journals and write his feelings out. So Ozzy ends up putting him out because Ozzy sees them boot up on the couch, and Ozzy's like, he's a part of my legal team. He tells his sister, look, he is a part of my legal team, okay? I'm going to need you. Whatever you think you got going on here, whatever you think you're doing, you're not going to do. You're not going to do. And so he sends the PI home, and he tells his sister, I don't need no babysitter. You going somewhere else. Well, the next day when the trial starts, the PI done double back and he done lied his way into the house to get them journals. He done lied his way into the house to get those journals. And he's reading through those journals because, of course, they like, what treasure trove could possibly be inside of this journal? Well, baby, what they found out inside of the journal was who was the one that had been violating Ozzy his whole life since he was 13. Baby, come to find out the person was his business manager. I believe her name is Maxine, Brandy in real life. You know Brandy, baby. And then we see this scene where Brandy, the doctor put him on medicinal weed because he was like, so that hopefully he won't go out here and get high off of the real heavy narcotics. We're going to give him some weed. So Brandy shows up with some pills and some weed and encouraging him to smoke the weed and get high. And then she was like, you know, it's been a long time, you know, and she basically seduces him. Now, while this is going on, of course, that's when Jackson and them are finding out that she's the one that's been sleeping with him since he was 13 years old. And at one point in his journals, he said he finally had the courage to push her away and tell her no. But he didn't tell her no that night. Because he was like, I miss Wendy. So, of course, you know. So, baby, that's how the episode ended, honey. So let's get into episode 5. I'll see y'all there. Talk to y'all later. Peace.